There's also some global news that's also kind of affecting trade today, and that's this North Korea test. They conducted their fifth and their biggest nuclear test. So this country announced today that it does have the ability to mount a warhead on a ballistic missile. President Obama is condemning the test. He wrote this in a written statement. But what can the White House do to stop North Korea from becoming a nuclear state? And these sanctions don't seem to be working. Gordon Chang, Daily Beast columnist and author of Nuclear Showdown, North Korea Takes on the World, and there's the book cover for you, is here now. You wrote an entire book on this exact topic. What can we do? Because we don't seem to have much influence over North Korea at this moment.
The sanctions haven't been working. I mean, we can tighten the sanctions, make them stricter, but the most important thing is just to enforce the sanctions we have on the books. You know, this year we have the North Korea Sanctions and Policy Enhancement Act. We also have, more important, on June 1st, the Treasury Department declared North Korea to be a primary money laundering concern. That means we can go after banks, not necessarily North Korean ones, but probably Chinese ones, that have been participating in North Korea's money laundering and also its nuclear weapons program.
Where is China in all of this? The Chinese do not seem to have a real true interest in being on the defensive. Even if there was a nuclear threat, they don't.
Well, you know,
playing a different game, and I'm surprised about that.
Definitely a different game, because on Tuesday, a senior North Korean nuclear envoy arrived in Beijing for talks. Now, if the North Koreans thought that the Chinese would impose real punishments on them, they wouldn't have detonated today, on Friday. So clearly the Chinese are at least complicit, and they're certainly not helping us. You know, our policy, our fundamental assumption is that the Chinese and us sort of see this the same way, and they're willing to help. Well, that's not working.
You know, it always seems that North Korea's leader, you get kind of, you know, Kim Jong-un is this, he's almost a character of himself, you know, and we have like that comedians that make fun of him and the hair and the eyebrows and everything. But is he a real threat? I think that we've always kind of discounted the fears of what he could do as smoke and mirrors.
Yeah.
Is it smoke and mirrors?
No, I think that there is a real threat there. And the reason is that his grip on power, I think, is not very firm. I mean, the American intelligence community thinks he's in charge. I don't think so, because we've seen all of these executions and these high-level defections recently. It means the situation is fluid. And, you know, even though he put somebody to death, the thing that there creates is enemies. Once you kill someone, you create enemies, friends and family of the victim. So I think the situation is really a little bit fluid, which means his risk threshold is pretty low. He sees the world in very different terms than we do. Even in the best of times, Cheryl, he threatens to incinerate Austin, Texas, and other places. So when things go really bad inside there, I don't know what he's going to do. I'm not saying that he'll do the worst, but nonetheless, it's a real possibility.
Because he's threatened, he's on the defensive just within his own country from his own enemies, and then he's also making enemies around the world. Real quick, I do want to ask you about Japan. Could a missile from North Korea find its way to Japan? Do you think that they can go that far?
Oh, they certainly can go that far. They have missiles that can reach the west coast of the United States, maybe even the Great Plains, the Taepodong 2 and the KN-08. Now, they've got a Nodong missile that can cover all of Japan, and their Nodong missile probably does have a nuclear warhead. The missiles that can reach the U.S., maybe 2 to 3 years before they can put a nuke on top of it, but they can do pretty much what they want with Japan right now if they chose to do so.
Which would spark a global World War.
Because the White
House
talked about extended deterrence, protecting our allies. That includes Japan.
Gordon Chang, the expert on all of this. You wrote a book on it. Thank you, sir.